Once upon a time, Lerato and Thabo's. Lerato grew up in the heart of a bustling South African township. Her family didn't have much, but they had hope and they believed in the power of education. Ever since she was young, Lerato had shown a gift for learning. A natural curiosity and drive to succeed made her stand out among her peers. But in a township where resources were scarce, opportunities like scholarships seemed out of reach for many. Still, Lerato worked tirelessly. It spent poring over books by candlelight and her days helping her mother in the small family shop. One day, everything changed when she received an envelope that would alter the course of her life forever. She had won a prestigious scholarship to attend one of the wealthiest private schools in the country. Nerves and excitement filled Lerato as she prepared for her first day at her new school. It was a place she had only heard about in whispers, a world where students arrived in luxury cars, their futures already paved with success. She was stepping into a new realm, and though her heart raced with anticipation, she knew this was her chance. A ticket out of the township and a stepping stone to helping her family. As she stepped through the grand gates of the school, she could feel the weight of her dreams on her shoulders. Little did she know, this new world would test her in ways she hadn't expected. In her first weeks at the private school, Lerato stood out, not because of her intelligence, but because of where she came from. The students whispered about her in the hallways. Some even laughed at her thrift store clothes, mocking her behind her back. But Lerato had faced challenges before. She had grown up fighting for what she wanted, and she wasn't going to let a few cruel comments derail her dreams. Despite the stares and the whispers, she kept her head high and focused on her studies, determined to prove she deserved to be there. However, not everyone was unkind. It was during one particularly stressful afternoon, as she sat alone at lunch, that Thabo approached her. Thabo was different from the other students. As the son of one of the country's wealthiest businessmen, he had grown up in a world of privilege, but he had never been one to flaunt his wealth. His charm and genuine kindness made him popular, but it also set him apart from the more elitist students at the school. When he saw Lerato sitting by herself, something about her determination and quiet strength drew him in. Their first conversation was short, but it left an impression on both of them. As time passed, they began to talk more and more. Lerato found herself drawn to his sincerity, and for the first time since arriving at the school, she felt as though she belonged. Their friendship blossomed quickly. Thabo admired Lerato's intelligence and resilience, while Lerato appreciated Thabo's grounded nature and his willingness to see beyond the surface. Together, they would study after class, exchanging ideas and discussing everything from literature to politics. The more time they spent together, the more they realized how much they had in common despite their different backgrounds. But as their friendship grew, so did the jealousy of some of their classmates. Lerato noticed the glares from other girls, and soon whispers about her trying to trap Thabo with her intellect began to circulate. The pressure was mounting, and Lerato couldn't help but wonder if she could handle the complexities of this new world. Despite the growing tension, Lerato and Thabo continued to support each other. They shared their dreams. Lerato spoke of using her education to improve her township and lift her family out of poverty, while Thabo confided in her about his struggles with the expectations placed on him as the heir to his father's business empire. Their friendship became a refuge from the pressures of their lives, but as they spent more time together, their connection deepened, and it became clear that they felt more for each other than just friendship. However, both of them knew that crossing that line could complicate things even more. The school wasn't ready for a relationship like theirs, and neither were their families. It wasn't long before Thabo's wealthy friends took notice of how close he and Lerato had become. Some of them teased him about his scholarship girlfriend, while others were openly hostile towards Lerato, seeing her as a threat. Thabo, who had always been well liked, suddenly found himself at odds with his social circle. He didn't care about their opinions, but he knew it was affecting Lerato. She was used to facing adversity, but the relentless gossip and subtle jabs were starting to wear her down. Thabo wanted to protect her, but he also knew that Lerato was strong enough to handle herself. They needed to find a way to stand together in the face of growing opposition. As the weeks went by, Lerato's academic performance remained stellar, and her teachers couldn't help but be impressed by her. But even with her academic success, the social challenges she faced were overwhelming. The school felt like a battleground, and she was constantly reminded of how different her life was from her classmates. Thabo tried to shield her from the worst of it, but there was only so much he could do. It wasn't just the students. Some of the faculty subtly reinforced the class divide, making Lerato feel even more like an outsider. Despite everything, Lerato stayed focused on her ultimate goal, making her family proud and proving that she belonged. Lerato's relationship with her family remained her anchor. They were her source of strength, and she knew that everything she was doing was for them. Her mother's words echoed in her mind whenever she felt like giving up. "You were born for greatness, Lerato. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." It wasn't easy, but with each day, she grew stronger. Her bond with Thabo also continued to deepen, and while they hadn't officially crossed into romance, it was clear that their feelings were mutual. They walked a fine line between friendship and love, knowing that if they took that step, it would change everything. One day, as Lerato was leaving school, she overheard a conversation between two girls who had been particularly cruel to her. They were mocking her again, but this time it was about her and Thabo. "She's just using him," one of them sneered. "She'll never belong here." Lerato's heart sank. She had worked so hard to prove herself academically, but it seemed like no matter what she did, her background would always be used against her. Later that night, she confided in Thabo about what she had heard. He was furious, not at her, but at the way his friends treated her. "I don't care what they think," he told her. "You belong here, Lerato. Don't ever doubt that." Lerato knew that Thabo was sincere, but the weight of their different worlds was heavy. She had dreams of going to university, of becoming someone who could make a difference in her community, but she also knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The scholarship was just the beginning, and the class divide was something she would face for the rest of her life. As the end of the school year approached, she found herself at a crossroads. Could she continue to walk this path with Thabo by her side, or would their love become another challenge she had to overcome? Their story was just beginning. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Lerato and Thabo were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their relationship, the pressures of their different worlds, and the dreams they both held dear. Lerato's thoughts raced as she stood at the crossroads of her future. She had worked too hard and come too far to let the opinions of a few privileged students define her worth. She was determined to prove herself not just to her classmates but to herself as well. As she reflected on her experiences, she realized that she was no longer the same girl who had stepped into the gates of the prestigious school. She was stronger, more resilient, and more sure of her purpose. But with the end of the school year fast approaching, Lerato couldn't ignore the uncertainty that lay ahead. Would she and Thabo truly be able to overcome the barriers between their worlds? Thabo, on the other hand, was grappling with his own internal conflict. His feelings for Lerato had only grown stronger, but he was constantly reminded of the expectations that came with his family's wealth. His parents had always envisioned him marrying someone from a similarly privileged background, and they had already begun hinting at possible suitable matches. Thabo had never cared for the superficiality of his social circle, but the pressure was starting to weigh on him. He knew that if he wanted to pursue a relationship with Lerato, he would have to defy his family's expectations, and that would come with consequences. As the weeks passed, Lerato and Thabo spent more time together. They continued studying and supporting each other, but there was an unspoken tension between them. They both knew that their friendship was on the verge of evolving into something deeper, but neither of them was willing to take that leap just yet. It wasn't just the class divide that stood between them. It was the fear of what their relationship would mean for their futures. Thabo's wealth and privilege came with responsibilities, while Lerato's dreams of lifting her family out of poverty were paramount. One evening, as they sat together on a hill overlooking the city, Thabo finally voiced what they had both been avoiding. "Lerato, I know we come from different worlds, but I can't ignore how I feel anymore. I care about you more than just as a friend." His words hung in the air, and Lerato felt her heart skip a beat. She had always suspected that Thabo felt the same way she did, but hearing it out loud made it real. "I feel the same way," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But before she could fully embrace the moment, reality set in. "But Thabo, this isn't just about us. Your family, my family. We have so much at stake." Thabo nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I know, but I'm willing to fight for us, if you are." Lerato's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to believe that love could conquer all, but her practical side reminded her that life wasn't that simple. She had seen too many people in her community sacrifice their dreams for love, only to end up stuck in the same cycle of poverty. Could she really risk everything she had worked for, just for a chance at happiness with Thabo? As the school year drew to a close, Lerato and Thabo found themselves at a crossroads. They had both received offers for prestigious universities. Lerato had been accepted into a top school in South Africa, while Thabo's family expected him to attend an Ivy League university in the United States. The distance between them would be vast, and neither of them knew what the future would hold. Lerato was torn between following her dreams and staying close to the person she had grown to love. Thabo, too, was conflicted. He wanted to support Lerato in her journey, but he also knew that his family's expectations would make it difficult for them to maintain a relationship. In the end, they made a decision that would change the course of their lives. They agreed to part ways for now, with the promise that they would always support each other, no matter where life took them. It was a heartbreaking decision, but they both knew it was the right one. Lerato needed to focus on her education and her goal of lifting her family out of poverty, while Thabo needed to confront his own path without relying on the safety net of his family's wealth. As they said their goodbyes, both Lerato and Thabo knew that their love story wasn't over. It was just beginning. They had faced the challenges of class, jealousy, and societal expectations, but their bond had only grown stronger. And though they were taking separate paths for now, they believed that one day their journeys would lead them back to each other. The years passed and Lerato flourished at university. She became a role model for other girls in her community, showing them that it was possible to break free from the cycle of poverty through education. She continued to stay in touch with Thabo, though their conversations became less frequent as their lives grew busier. Thabo too found his own path, studying business and preparing to take over his father's company. But no matter how much time passed, they never forgot the connection they shared. One fateful day, after years of hard work and perseverance, Lerato was invited to speak at an international conference on education and poverty alleviation. It was a dream come true, an opportunity to share her story and inspire others. As she took the stage, she looked out into the audience and saw a familiar face, Thabo. He had flown halfway across the world to be there for her, and in that moment, everything fell into place. Their journey had been long and difficult, but they had both grown into the people they were always meant to be. As they reunited after the conference, Thabo took Lerato's hand and smiled. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he said softly. Lerato nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, we have, and I wouldn't change a thing."